Intro, Hook. It's the late 1960s in California. The Vietnam War is raging. Protests flood the streets. The summer of love has given way to unrest, and the state feels like the center of a nation in turmoil. But amid the politics, music, and chaos, something darker begins to stir. On December 20, 1968, two teenagers, David Faraday, 17, and Betty Lou Jensen, 16, drove out to Lake Herman Road, near Vallejo, California. It was supposed to be a quiet night together, away from the world. But by the end of that night, they were both dead. Shot at close range by a mysterious figure. Betty Lou was found just yards away from the car, riddled with bullets. It seemed like a tragic but isolated crime, until it wasn't. This was the first of a series of killings that would terrorize Northern California. And soon, the killer would step out of the shadows to name himself, the Zodiac. Victim profiles. Early murders after Lake Herman Road came Blue Rock Springs. On July 4, 1969, Darlene Ferrin and Mike Mago sat in a parked car at Blue Rock Springs Park, just a few miles from the first murders. Another car pulled up behind them. A man stepped out with a flashlight and a gun. Without warning, he opened fire. Darlene was killed instantly. Mike survived despite multiple gunshot wounds. He later described the shooter as a heavy-set white male, around 30 years old. But the description wasn't enough. Then, the unthinkable happened. At 12:40 a.m., police received a phone call. The man on the line calmly confessed, not only to the Blue Rock Springs attack, but also to the Lake Herman murders months earlier. He ended the call with chilling precision, "I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye." The Zodiac was no longer just a killer. He was a voice. A presence. Someone who wanted credit and attention. 2 months later, on September 27, 1969, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were picnicking at Lake Berryessa when a man in a black hood approached, his chest marked with a white crosshair symbol. He tied them up, then stabbed them repeatedly. Cecilia later died from her wounds. This was no random act. The Zodiac had escalated. He left a message on Brian's car door, his symbol, the dates of previous killings, and his latest claim of responsibility. And then came San Francisco. On October 11, 1969, cab driver Paul Stine picked up a fare near Union Square. Minutes later, he was shot in the head. Unlike the previous attacks, this one happened in the heart of the city. Police arrived quickly, but a miscommunication led them to search for a black suspect, allowing the real killer, a white man matching earlier descriptions, to walk away just blocks from the crime scene. The Zodiac had struck again. And he wasn't finished. The letters Ciphers. The Zodiac didn't just kill. He communicated. Taunted. Demanded to be heard. In August 1969, 3 Bay Area newspapers received nearly identical letters. Each claimed responsibility for the Lake Herman and Blue Rock Springs murders. Each included 1/3 of a cryptogram, which the Zodiac demanded be printed on the front page, or else more people would die. The ciphers contained strange symbols, circles, triangles, crossed lines, that seemed like a code. When solved, the first cipher revealed a chilling message: "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all." But what stood out was the killer's closing line: "I will not give you my name because you will try to slow down or stop my collecting of slaves for my afterlife." This wasn't about money. It wasn't about revenge. It was about power, recognition, and some twisted belief that killing gave him eternal control. Over the years, the Zodiac sent more than 20 letters, often addressed to newspapers. Some included bloody pieces of Paul Stine's shirt as proof of his crimes. Others contained threats to attack school buses, claiming he would pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out. He signed each letter with a circle and a cross, his personal symbol. And with every message, he grew bolder. The investigation. The police were thrown into chaos. Multiple jurisdictions, Vallejo, Napa, San Francisco, and the California Highway Patrol, were involved. Coordination was messy, evidence was lost, and communication between agencies broke down. Tips flooded in by the thousands. Every crank call, every suspicious man in Northern California seemed like a potential Zodiac. Composite sketches were drawn from eyewitness descriptions at Paul Stine's murder. They showed a stocky man with glasses, but leads went nowhere. Detectives tracked down suspects, tested fingerprints, and examined handwriting. But the Zodiac always seemed one step ahead. The media frenzy only fueled his ego. The more headlines he got, the more letters he sent. And while he bragged about killing as many as 37 people, only 5 have been definitively linked to him. Still, the possibility that more victims existed added to the terror. The Zodiac's genius wasn't just in his crimes, it was in creating a legend. A killer who wasn't just a man, but a symbol of fear. Theories suspects over the decades, dozens of suspects have been named. The most famous is Arthur Leigh Allen, a convicted child molester who lived near Vallejo. Allen owned a Zodiac brand watch featuring the same crosshair symbol. He was identified by one witness as resembling the killer. Police searched his home and found weapons, disturbing writings, and connections to the crime scenes. Yet, despite the circumstantial evidence, Allen's DNA and fingerprints never matched. He died in 1992, still a prime suspect but never charged. Other suspects included Richard Gaikowski, a journalist linked to the Bay Area counterculture. Some claimed his voice matched the Zodiac's phone calls. Lawrence Kane, a man with brain injuries and a history of stalking women, was also investigated. Each suspect seemed promising, but none could be definitively tied to the murders. The possibility also remains that the Zodiac was someone entirely overlooked, an ordinary man, blending into society, hiding in plain sight. The codes cracked, the Zodiac's ciphers became as famous as his crimes. The first was solved quickly by a schoolteacher and his wife, revealing the chilling, "I like killing people" message. But the others remained unsolved for decades. One of the most infamous was the 340-character cipher, sent in 1969. For over 50 years, experts, cryptographers, and amateur code breakers tried to crack it. Then, in 2020, an international team finally succeeded. The message didn't reveal his name, but it continued his taunting style, boasting about not being caught, mocking the police, and denying responsibility for a recent murder the press had linked to him. Other ciphers remain unsolved to this day. Some may be genuine. Others may be gibberish, designed not to communicate, but to frustrate and terrify. Closing reflection: the Zodiac Killer is more than just a true crime story. He is a symbol of terror, a figure who turned murder into theater and fear into a public spectacle. Unlike most serial killers, the Zodiac wasn't caught, and he didn't fade into obscurity. His legacy has only grown. He has inspired films, novels, and endless theories. He forced law enforcement to confront not just the brutality of murder, but the power of fear and media. Who was he? Was Arthur Leigh Allen the right suspect all along? Was it someone else who slipped through the cracks? Or was the Zodiac not one man, but an idea that took on a life of its own? Decades later, we still don't know his name. What we do know is this: the Zodiac Killer wanted to be remembered. And he got exactly what he wanted. This is Silent Shrouds. Subscribe for more chilling true crime deep dives, where the shadows speak, and the silence tells the story.